When I was still an infant, my adoptive parents bought me from a trafficker for 20,000 yuan. As a result, the adoptive mother became pregnant that same year. They couldn't wait to send me back. After the college entrance examination, I went to Peking University and my sister went to a technical school, and my biological parents came to the door. My sister covered her mouth and laughed, saying that my good days were over and I had to go back to the countryside from the big city to herd cattle. In order to reduce the burden on my biological parents, I decided not to go to college, and my father took my hand and said, "Silly boy, our family has hundreds of cows and sheep all over the mountains and plains. If we sell one cow, we can pay for the tuition." My adoptive parents are middle class, their family conditions are good, and their careers are going smoothly. The only trouble is that after many years of marriage, the two have never been able to give birth to a son and a half daughters. However, just 1 month after adopting me, my adoptive mother became pregnant. The two people were ready to send me away. The neighbor's grandmother said to them, "This child is here to deliver her son. If you send her away, I'm afraid the child will not be saved." This is what the neighbor's grandmother told me later. In desperation, the adoptive parents had to give up the idea. Later they gave birth to my sister. After I became wise, they lied to me and said I was picked up by them. I was vaguely aware that they had been asking for news about my biological parents over the years, intentionally or unintentionally. Later, I became my sister's little follower. At a young age, I learned how to observe people's emotions. For more than 10 years, taking care of my sister at home was my way of survival. When she was studying, I fanned her when she was hot, and poured her water when she was thirsty. When she was tired of studying, she would push all the homework in front of me and say, "Hurry up and finish it for me. I will go to cram school later. When my mother comes back, call me in time. If my mother finds out, I want you to look good." But sister, in order to take care of us, my mother has reserved me in the 1st grade. She finally asked someone to put us in the same class. "You have to study hard, otherwise my mother will. I'm not happy." Now is the time for the college entrance examination. I'm worried that if my sister continues like this, I might be left 1 grade higher. Unexpectedly, my sister slapped me on the back. "Are you talking too much? You are so impressive at studying. After understanding your own identity, do you really think you are my sister?" I have been oppressed by my sister for more than 10 years, and I have long been accustomed to it. It is not that I am submissive, but my adoptive parents. No matter how bad it is, it still gives me a place to stay. Now, I am preparing for the college entrance examination. I do not have the ability to survive alone, so I can only endure it for now. Growing up, what my adoptive parents told me the most was that they wanted me to worry less. Fortunately, my academic performance has been very good over the years. I often help my sister with lectures and supervise her homework. But sister, we both have very heavy studies. When you are doing homework, I have been helping you with things. Now it is time for me to do homework. I was a little unhappy. Unexpectedly, my sister stood up directly, pointed at my nose and yelled, "Okay, you talk back." "Right. You will do one thing in front of my parents and another in front of me. When my parents come back, look at me not suing you." I didn't. "Then hurry up and write your homework. I have to go to the cram school later, and you have to write the cram school homework for me." Okay. It was getting dark, and I didn't have a dedicated study room, so I could only turn on a night light and help her do her homework on the balcony of the living room. Squeak. The door rang. I looked up and saw that the adoptive parents who had come back from playing cards outside were talking and laughing, and seemed to be in a good mood. However, looking at the light and seeing me still doing my homework, my adoptive mother was very unhappy. "Xiao Xian, it's so late. Why haven't you finished your homework? Have you been playing all day long?" "No," I was about to explain, when my sister opened the door to the room, ran over and threw herself into the adoptive mother's room. In arms. That is a scene that I have always dreamed of realizing. Mom, you're back. My younger sister held her adoptive mother's arm and took credit proudly. Mom, I finished my homework, and I also finished my homework for the cram school. Am I a good boy? Good boy, I'm good. My daughter is the most well-behaved. If you can get admitted to Peking University this year, my mother will give you a loan to buy a BMW. Really? My sister's eyes turned to me, and her eyebrows almost flew up. I ignored her, lowered my head and continued to do my homework. Mom, you don't even know that my school teachers often praise me for being smart and hardworking. Unlike my sister, I asked her to study after playing with her mobile phone all day, and she asked me to leave her alone. When they said this, they were already walking arm in arm. When I entered the bedroom and my adoptive father closed the door, I was shocked by the look in his eyes. Adoptive parents have always been like this. No matter how I explain, they will only think that I am quibbling. In their eyes, my sister is the young daughter of Tsinghua University and Peking University, and it would be best if I could find my biological parents as soon as possible. After all, the tuition fees for a third-rate university are enough to make them feel distressed for a long time. The school has begun the countdown to the annual college entrance examination. The teacher's teaching pace is very fast in every class, and many students in the class are getting more and more anxious. But in such a tense atmosphere, my sister is still focused in class, secretly showing others her new manicure. Li Yu. My sister didn't expect to be called by name, so she was stunned for a moment and quickly stood up. Please answer this question. This is a very simple function problem. I have used different problem-solving methods and gone through the solution process in my mind. My sister hid her hands behind her back and muttered for a long time without saying anything. Then Li Xian, answer it. Seeing that Li Yu couldn't hold it in for a long time, the teacher called my name. I still lived up to expectations and solved complex function problems in the most concise way. Very good, classmate Li Xian. Your ideas are very advanced. I wonder how you came up with some of your ideas. Of course I won't say that it is the credit of my sister's cram school. I sometimes go to the bookstore to read, and that's when I saw it. The teacher nodded with satisfaction. It's really good of you to do this. Everyone must learn from Li Xian, who still knows how to study after class. Especially you, Li Yu. Your sister is so good. You can't ask her for advice more. I haven't been focusing on studying all day long. Sit down. My sister sat down angrily. She naturally knew that I had to go home and do housework after school, and I would be scolded if I cooked dinner late. There would be no time to go to the bookstore to study. My sister looked at me angrily and whispered, "Green tea bitch." Now, I don't care what she says about me. I have already made plans to go to whichever school I am admitted to. I will work during the winter and summer vacations to earn tuition and get rid of the clutches of this family. After class, many classmates came to my seat to ask questions, including the class leader who was always a little indifferent to his classmates. You are quite smart and should be able to get into a good university. Thank you. So are you. I have always admired your talent and learning. Then add WeChat. If there are any unclear problems in the future, we can discuss them with each other. Okay, we looked at each other, smiled, and wrote each other's WeChat messages on the notes. As soon as the school bell rang, my sister rode the tram and left directly without waiting for me. The adoptive parents' house is not far from the school, and it only takes 10 minutes to ride the tram. So we have always been a day student. In the past, I would take her by tram. Today, my sister must have some objections to what I said in class and deliberately threw her. Get mine. It was a 10-minute tram ride, but it was not easy to walk. When I got home, the moment I opened the door, The atmosphere had already dropped to freezing point. The adoptive parents were sitting on the sofa with solemn expressions. When they saw me pushing the door open, the adoptive mother was the first to complain. A hooves is a hooves. Sometimes genes cannot be changed by the environment. No wonder your parents abandoned you and you are like this. Cheap. I was confused. The adoptive father explained. You said that you were in love with a male classmate at school. I turned to look at Liu, and she held her head high, looking arrogant. It's absolutely true. She was in love with a male classmate in our class. I saw it with my own eyes. If you don't believe me, you went through her school bag. Liu, it turns out you were waiting for me here. No wonder you left without waiting for me. I still don't know what you have arranged me into. I don't have one. That's just an ordinary classmate. However, the adoptive mother would not listen to my explanation at all. She violently ripped the school bag off my back and poured out all the contents. A few notebooks, a pencil that was almost too big to hold, and a note torn from the notebook. The younger sister knelt down and picked up the note. After seeing the content on the note, she smiled and said, "Look, the evidence is here," and they even left her a WeChat message. After that, she showed the note in front of her adoptive mother. The adoptive mother gritted her teeth with hatred and said, "I know you have no future. If you are in a hurry to get married, you don't need to go to high school. It doesn't make any difference whether you go to high school or not. But if you are with Yaya every day and do these things, you are not afraid of putting her down. Is Yaya a bad actor? If you delay Yaya's entrance to a key university, I will strangle you to death. What's the point of raising you?" I finally couldn't stand it anymore and retorted, "It's better to say use it than to support it. I have been ordered to do this and that since I was young. My sister is playing with you in the children's playground, but I am rubbing clothes that I can't even lift. Your family is happily traveling, and I am at home like a watchdog. I look after the house and eat steamed buns that are about to go moldy 3 times a day. Whenever I have time, I go to the milk tea shop to help earn living expenses. I cook the food at home and mop the floor. No matter how great the kindness is, over the years, I paid it back." Sure enough, my retort was met with even more vicious curses from my adoptive parents. "Okay, I really raised a white-eyed wolf. I asked you to read a few books, and you are bolder, right? We should let the neighbors come and see how this bitch repays us." The two of them sang in harmony without giving me a chance to argue. My sister crumpled the note into a ball and threw it into the trash can along with my remaining dignity. The next day, when Ban Chao saw me again, he was very cold. I don't know why, but my sister seemed to be in a very good mood. The next time I stood on the school playground was at the school's pre-examination mobilization meeting, where I spoke on stage as an outstanding student representative. It was nothing more than sharing some problem-solving skills and personal experiences. When I finished my speech, there were bursts of applause from the audience. I stepped down and sat down, but my sister snatched the speech script from my hand and tore up the page with my name on it. Go. When I get home later, I will tell my mother that I am the one who spoke on stage as an outstanding student representative. Do you hear me? Of course I don't want to compete with her for such a false reputation, okay? But, if you keep lying to them like this, won't everything be revealed after the college entrance examination is over? Unexpectedly, my sister smiled contemptuously and said, "You don't care. I will ask my mother to pick up the car after I finish the exam. When the time comes, I will have to repeat the studies for another year at most. I will ask my mother to ask you to repeat the studies with me. When will I pass the exam and when will you be able to go to college? So, Li Xian, what's the use of studying well?" Liu smiled happily, but I gritted my teeth. "Liu, don't think that I am still a soft persimmon for you to manipulate at will. However, What I didn't expect was that in order to prevent me from getting into college, my sister hid my admission ticket before the exam. If you think about it again, something as important as your admission ticket will definitely not be lost casually. The class teacher took the bag and rummaged around to look for it. I remember that our things were all put here. I checked them before we left. How could they be missing? I was so anxious that I was sweating. Yeah, you saw my admission ticket when you picked up the things. Have you done it? Liu said with an attitude that it had nothing to do with her. I don't know. You don't think much of your own things, so you come to ask me at this time. It's inexplicable. Looking at her poor acting skills, I suddenly felt a sudden chill. The head teacher was so anxious that I was the most promising prospect in the school to get admitted to a key university. If my mentality was affected by the disappearance of my admission ticket, I would be really pissed off. Come on, let's go explain the situation to the exam administrator. We can probably go to the exam room first. You said that you, a usually smart student, lost your admission ticket before the exam. You really piss me off. At this time, Liu's face was already filled with tears. I couldn't hide my happiness, as if I had predicted that I would be so depressed because I lost my admission ticket, and I would naturally fail the college entrance examination. The head teacher took my hand and asked me to take me to the examination administrator. Liu talked and laughed with the sisters next to her with a relaxed expression. But I held the class teacher's hand and said, "Teacher, I suddenly remembered that I seem to." Liu turned around when she heard my voice. Her eyes seemed to say, "Let's see what else you can do." I seem to remember that I was afraid that I would lose it, so I printed an extra admission ticket. The one I put in my bag at that time was the original one I printed. Before I could finish speaking, I put my hand into my trouser pocket and started printing. I took out a brand new admission ticket and said, "I put the original in my pocket." After saying that, I turned my eyes to Liu, who had her eyes wide open. She may not have thought that I, who had always been at her mercy, would one day he would play tricks with her. Liu's expression was already a little unbearable. I walked towards her and said, "Sister, you look worried. It's all because of your carelessness. You can lose such an important thing." "Don't worry. Didn't you find your sister?" Liu was startled. After a moment, he looked at the classmates around him and said blankly, "Oh, okay, just found it." Then Liu glared at me fiercely. She probably never dreamed that I would treat her like this. One course. After the college entrance examination, I originally planned to find a job in an electronics factory after my scores came out to earn living expenses for myself, and I would use a student loan to pay for my tuition, so I wouldn't need to rely on this family at all. Xiao Xan, you know that with your grades, you can probably go to a junior college. Mom thinks you don't need to waste this money at all. You can just find a factory to work and earn some money. What do you think?" It was the second time my adoptive mother told me this. I remained silent and continued to wash the bowl in my hand. If my adoptive mother hadn't been reluctant to pay for a nanny, she might have kicked me off to work in a factory without even letting me wait for my grades. However, 1 hour before the scores came out, a call from the admissions office of Peking University came on my adoptive mother's mobile phone. I was hanging laundry at the time, and my adoptive mother's voice, which was louder than a trumpet, made it difficult for me not to notice her. "Hey, yes, are you from Peking University?" I poked my head out of the kitchen and saw my adoptive mother holding my adoptive father's arm excitedly. The two of them kept pacing back and forth, and my adoptive father's face turned red from the excitement. "Hey, what? 705 points. After hearing this, the adoptive mother's eyes widened like a cow, and she almost fainted with excitement. "I just want my daughter to live up to her expectations." Yeah, you are really my good baby. Daddy's ancestral grave is smoking. The adoptive father held his sister's hand and almost burst into tears. Liu also looked in disbelief. However, before the adoptive mother said a few words to the person on the phone, the adoptive mother who had been so happy just now suddenly turned down. After saying a few words, the adoptive mother hung up the phone. Her mood suddenly turned cloudy, and the adoptive father patted the adoptive mother on the shoulder. What? You're so excited that you're so excited. Our daughter is going to make some faces for us. Let's go. Yeah, let's pick up the BMW today. Liu also happily took her adoptive father's hand. Before the two of them could leave, the adoptive mother he grabbed his adoptive father and said solemnly, I'm looking for Li Xian. The air suddenly condensed, and the three of them looked at me, who was still holding the clothes hanger. Liu was crying, her eyes full of anger. The adoptive mother had a cold face, as if she wanted to eat me. We looked at each other like this, and finally the ringtone of our adoptive mother's cell phone broke the awkwardness. The adoptive mother answered the phone, but her expression suddenly brightened again. Hello, are you from Tsinghua University? Hearing the voice on the phone, the adoptive father who had a slumped face just now grinned as if he had found a treasure. Yeah, then this must be for you. Let me tell you, my daughter can definitely pass the exam to my satisfaction. The results, if I guessed correctly, the adoptive mother will definitely show off her face-changing skills later. Sure enough, without saying a few words, the adoptive mother lowered the corners of her lips that were so high-spirited. Oh, we're looking for Li Xian again. The adoptive mother said as she glanced at me sideways and suddenly changed the subject. What about Liu? Can Liu go to your school? We really hope that Liu can go too. Your school? I vaguely heard the person saying. Sorry, we don't know about this, but we can check the results later. I hope this student can also get good results. The other person hadn't said anything yet. After that, the adoptive mother hung up the phone directly. I walked towards my adoptive mother in surprise. Mom, you hung up the phone before I finished speaking. What else? My adoptive mother glared at me. Wait a minute, yeah, we'll check the results. After checking, let's talk. Okay. I lowered my head. As expected, my sister got a 211, not a 211 college, but a total score of 211. Seeing the bright Arabic numerals on the computer, my adoptive parents thought that the school had confused our grades. However, instead of blaming my sister, they blamed me. When I asked you to be honest and not to delay Yaya's studies, you were still in love. I heard from Yaya that you lost your admission ticket before the exam, which made Yaya worried about you. It must be because of this. Yaya, that's why I acted abnormally. I don't know how the adoptive mother had the confidence to say such a thing. I don't know if my sister is acting abnormally, but I didn't fall in love, and I didn't delay her studies. As for the admission ticket, I'm afraid my sister knows better than me. My adoptive mother picked up the clothes hanger and wanted to hit me. What do you mean? You did? Yeah, take my things. Why are you so shameless? The adoptive mother probably knew she didn't care, because the clothes hanger she raised never fell down. After a long time, the adoptive mother finally said, I don't agree with you going to college. You and Yaya should repeat the studies together to make up for your mistakes. I got 705 points in the exam. You want me to repeat the studies? I can't believe that the adoptive mother can be so vicious. To a certain extent, she wanted to tie my life to Liu forever. You were raised by us. Now that you have grown up, your wings have become stiff, right? If you are asked to repeat, you have to repeat. Who do you think you are? Otherwise, I won't pay a penny for you to study in college. I read. You don't need to pay for college. I earn it myself. My adoptive parents may not have thought that I had already made plans for myself. This was undoubtedly a betrayal for them who had not followed my feelings since childhood and made unilateral decisions about my life. What a bastard. I should have thrown you away and let you starve to death and freeze to death. It's better than raising a white-eyed wolf now and turning your back and refusing to recognize anyone. Just in time. I originally thought that your good life would soon be over. At the end, there is something I plan to tell you after dinner today. Now it seems that I will tell you in advance. Your biological parents have been found and they will probably come to pick you up tomorrow. Liu smiled after hearing this. Obviously she had known about it for a long time, and the whole family only hid it from me. Biological parents. Such a strange word. Now that I have endured all the suffering, they only thought of looking for me. Why did they go there so long ago? The adoptive mother continued. It was my neighbor Grandma Lee who helped me find out. I heard that your biological mother was still in the hospital a few days ago. Alas, if they didn't say that your good days are over, they are just herding cattle. Oh, you have a brother at home. Why do you think your parents don't want you? When you go back, the hard days have just begun. The adoptive mother said a series of words in one breath, but my brain seemed unable to process it, and I was a little confused. Liu covered her mouth, looked at me with pity, and suddenly laughed and said, How pitiful. In my house, you can only do housework at most. When you go back, you will have to herd cattle, and maybe even more. I'm picking up rags to treat your mother's illness. The adoptive mother pretended to blame Liu and said, Your sister. No, she won't be your sister in a while. She has strong wings. She just said she doesn't need us anymore. Then the adoptive mother looked at me critically and continued, Li Xian, if you agree to repeat your studies and take your sister to study in the future, I can temporarily keep you here with us and prevent you from going back to live a hard life. What do you think? The adoptive mother's ideas are no different from whims. Do they think I should live such a life? Or have my 10 years of tolerance given them the illusion that I am so stupid? I define what a hard life is. I said decisively, Okay, I want to see how long you can be stubborn. I will call those schools back later and reject them one by one. Then I will tell your class teacher that you have to repeat your studies next year. This matter is up to me. And since you don't want to recognize me as your mother, you don't have to live here anymore. When you've had enough of wandering, it won't be too late for you to come back and serve Yaya. Oh, serve, you finally said it directly. Over the years, you have pretended to be kind to me in front of outsiders, and now you have admitted that I am just a free nanny. You abused me, criticized me, and suppressed me, all for the sake of your biological daughter. Otherwise, what do you think? It's good to just give you a bite to eat, but you still want us to treat you like our own daughter. If you hadn't been a diligent worker when you were a child, I would have thrown you away long ago. When I heard my adoptive mother's extremely hurtful and vicious words, I was not only not annoyed, but actually felt a little happy. Okay, then let's go our separate ways. I turned around and went to school. The head teachers of several classes also came to the school for the students' scores. When I played the recording to them, they all frowned and even gritted their teeth. When I learned that the first call was made to me, I turned on the recording button on my phone. Now that it was over, if I didn't plan for myself, there would be no chance of me turning around. I really didn't expect that when your mother usually comes to parent-teacher conferences, she looks very gentle and generous. Who knew she was like this behind her back? You really can't tell a person's face. After hearing this, the teacher in the next class said angrily. The head teacher touched my shoulder and comforted me. Li Xian, don't worry, the teacher is here to help you. If you prefer Tsinghua University or Peking University, the teacher will contact you. Also, if you are homeless, you can come to the teacher. Home. My eyes were filled with tears. I was about to tell her that when I was going to go out to find a job, there was a knock on the office door. Opening the door, a white-haired grandma and a middle-aged man in his 50s came in. The head teacher said to the two people, "Are you looking for students? Sorry, the students are already on vacation." The two people seemed to have seen something and ran towards me with excitement on their faces. The head teacher was also startled and hurriedly pulled me behind her. "What are you doing? If you keep doing this, I'll call security." While she was talking, the grandma was already crying loudly. She opened her mouth, but her voice was hoarse and she couldn't say anything. The middle-aged man's face was also full of tears. "Girl, I finally found you." Everyone in the office didn't know why. The man kept nodding to his grandma. "I found it. I found it. It looks like it. It looks so much like you when you were young." The man continued, "We went to your house, but your adoptive mother said you ran away. Your mother was thinking, the only place you can go is school. I said school is on holiday, but I can't persuade your mother. She said she has to search everywhere today." "Mom," I shouted in confusion. The grandma in front of me nodded heavily and finally said, It's me. She is actually my mother." "Why does she look so haggard and her hair is white?" Probably seeing my doubts, my biological father said to me, "Not long after you were born, all the cows in the house were sick, and I had to watch. We never dreamed that you were right under our noses. She was abducted." Your mother blamed herself and her hair turned gray overnight. Later, her health got worse and worse, and she was admitted to the hospital every 3 days. We have been looking for you every day for these years. It turns out that I was not thrown away. Yes, I was abducted. I am not an abandoned object. I have biological parents, and they love me very much." At this time, the head teacher also stepped away from me. I stepped forward and hugged their thin bodies, crying for the first time. Finally, I persuaded my mother to go back to the hospital. The doctor said that her physical condition was very bad. She had experienced great sorrow and joy, and she needed to rest in the hospital for a long time. Looking at my biological parents now, they are obviously only in their 40s, but they are much more haggard than their peers. Now that my mother is hospitalized, she not only needs money for everything, but also needs someone to take care of her. My father must be stretched thin. I stroked the back of my mother's vein-covered hand and said, "Mom, if I don't go to college, I'll find a class near home. This way I can take care of you and earn some money, so that my father can relax." My father had just finished announcing the good news to his brother and hung up the phone. When he saw me saying this, he showed an expression of relief on his face and said to my mother, "Look how sensible our daughter is." My mother nodded heavily, with tears in her eyes. He held my hand and said, "Silly boy, why do you need to make money? Our family has sheep and hundreds of cows all over the mountains and plains. If you sell one cow, you can get the tuition." "Yes." Dad agreed. "Your brother is also listed on the stock market. The company's executives, coincidentally, are in this city. If your brother hadn't been well connected, I don't know when I would have heard about you. I'll tell your brother the news about you, and when he's finished, just come and find us." "Really? Which company does my brother work for?" My brother and I actually live in the same city. However, when my father said my brother's name, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. There is something even more coincidental. Adoptive parents. It seems that there are no coincidences. My parents asked me if there was anything else I needed to take from my adoptive parents' house. If I didn't need anything, I would go to the mall and buy new things for everything. While pushing a cart full of items, my father said to me, "Girl, if you can't bear to part with this place, we will buy a building here. It will be convenient for your adoptive parents to come to you when they miss you." I didn't listen. Wrong. Buying a building. The adoptive father has been working for so long and still has to pay the mortgage. They just want to buy a building, not to mention living with the adoptive parents. I frowned. Mom pushed Dad and said, "Girl, don't argue with your dad. He is stingy. Let him buy a house for your adoptive parents. Thank you for their careful care over the years." I quickly stopped them. That's not what I meant. Over the years, they have not treated me well at all, and I have suffered a lot. After saying that, my parents fell silent. Needless to say, my mother would definitely blame herself again. I changed the topic and interrupted my mother's unspoken words. In order to get our ID cards back, we went to our adoptive parents' house. When we opened the door and it was me, our adoptive father casually tried to close the door, but he blocked the door with his foot. The adoptive father looked at his father in shock and said, "You are sick." Dad smiled politely and said, "You are my adoptive father. We brought some gifts. Anyway, my girl has grown up with you over the years." Through the crack in the door, I saw the adoptive mother in the house giving her adoptive father with a wink. The adoptive father opened the door. My adoptive mother was eating watermelon, while Liu was playing games on the sofa. The two of them completely ignored my parents' arrival. We bought some small things. Don't dislike it. My parents have the simple temperament of herdsmen. Even though they brought their adoptive parents the top quality beef and mutton specialties from their factory that are exported abroad, their attitudes were still humble. The adoptive mother pouted and spat out the watermelon seed shells in front of us. She covered her nose with disgust and said, "Hey, what is it? It smells like seeds." But the adoptive father knew that this thing was very expensive, so he said, "This brand I've seen it, but I'm not telling you. Li Xian, your parents also spent a lot of money to save face for you. They don't kill the cows they have at home. Buying such top quality ingredients will save your family troubles. You can do well in terms of face." Yes, but who would think highly of you because of this? People must have content. Unexpectedly, his parents' good intentions turned into a source of ridicule for him. I was about to retort, but my father spoke first. "Now it seems that my girl has really suffered a lot with you. You have an adoptive mother who doesn't understand etiquette and an adoptive father who has no quality. You really pity my girl. She has been here all these years, suffering in the den of tigers and wolves." Liu jumped up from the sofa. "What are you talking about, you stinky cattle herder? I come into the city and see how you behave. What qualifications do you have to criticize my parents? Hurry up and get out of my house, get out." "Liu, you have this time to point fingers at your elders. Why not go to your room and read? In the past, you didn't write a word of homework all day long, and you asked me to write it for you. As soon as your parents go out, you go out. Are you fooling around with your friends so that you can get admitted to college?" I attacked Liu. I was too lazy to talk about this before, but now it is undoubtedly the best time to shake it out. As expected, the adoptive parents looked at Liu with shocked faces, especially the adoptive mother. It was the first time I saw her look so angry towards Liu. Liu immediately lost his voice and sat down wilted. The adoptive mother pointed at Liu and said, "Just wait, I will take care of you later." After that, she scolded her father again. It's really an eye-opener. No wonder this girl has been unable to achieve anything all day long. It turns out that she followed her father because of her genes. Okay, aren't you very powerful? We have raised her for almost 20 years. If nothing else, it's appropriate for you to compensate us 2 million. You're dreaming, I yelled. If you don't pay, I will sue you. I have raised you for so many years, and I have worked hard without any merit. You must compensate me. The two sides couldn't argue, but the doorbell rang at an inappropriate time. My adoptive father opened the door, and my father shouted to the young man in a suit and tie outside the door, "Son, but like a frightened pug. My adoptive father suddenly extinguished his arrogance and flattered the man outside the door. "Mr. Wang, what are you doing?" "Coming." The fun begins. Obviously, the tall and handsome young man outside the door was my brother. Before he entered the house, he looked around the room. When his eyes touched mine, they suddenly became soft. "Are you Li Xian?" "Yeah." I nodded slightly. "I am your brother." After saying that, he looked at his adoptive father, who next to him had beads of sweat covering his head. "I just heard that you wanted compensation," my brother asked his adoptive father. Before the adoptive father could speak, the adoptive mother shouted to my brother, "That's not true. Although you are my husband's leader, you can't be unreasonable and bully us because of your status. We have raised her for more than 10 years. You guys just leave as soon as you want. You have to compensate us." Okay, my brother actually agreed. What he said next made me understand the whole story, and my final gratitude to my adoptive parents was also disappeared completely. According to my investigation, Li Xian was not picked up by you, but bought from a trafficker. Right. The adoptive mother, who was still arrogant just now, looked at the adoptive father. The two looked at each other. The adoptive mother was stunned for a moment, and then he jumped and said, "So what if I bought it? If I don't buy it, someone else will buy it. If someone else buys it, she might not be as good as she is now." My brother smiled slightly and took out the recording in his pocket. The pen said, "As long as you admit it. Anyone who buys or abducts children shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of not more than 3 years, criminal detention or surveillance. Those who are accompanied by illegal deprivation or restriction of personal freedom or injury, insult and other criminal acts shall be punished in accordance with several crimes, according to the provisions of the punishment." My brother looked at the two of them with a pair of cold eyes and asked, "Are the legal provisions clear?" He is indeed my brother. He is handsome, and he is as doggy as me. Injury, insult. You really do it right away. The adoptive mother still spoke harshly. My brother looked at me, as if waiting for my response, and I turned on my phone and played the recording. Everyone at the scene fell silent. After the recording was played, the two people were like eggplants beaten by frost, wilting. The adoptive father seemed to have thought of something, and rushed over and slapped the adoptive mother. The adoptive mother was not prepared, and the force directly knocked her to the ground. "You bad old woman. Xin is such a good girl. You always encourage me to treat her harshly. It's all your fault for instigating her." The adoptive father pointed at the adoptive mother's nose and cursed. The adoptive mother covered her face that was red from being slapped and looked at the adoptive father in disbelief. "Am I trying to persuade you? It's obviously you who keep saying that it's not easy for you to make money and you have to raise a daughter for others. You are unwilling to do so. Now it's all my fault. Why are you still there? Hit me." After saying that, the adoptive mother got up and rushed towards the adoptive father. The two of them were fighting each other, and Liu kept crying next to him, and cursed, "Li Xian, you little bitch. You must die. You are a troublemaker." My brother looked displeased. Said, "At such a young age, you always use swear words, which shows that you usually lack parental discipline. If your parents don't have time to take care of you, I don't mind letting your dad spend more time with you. I know my adoptive father very well. He got this job. He spent a lot of money to build connections and finally got the interview. He went around showing off that he had found a good job and won a lot of envy from others. The salary is high and the benefits are good. He gets off work very early every day, so he takes his adoptive mother to play mahjong with him. It is the high monthly income that gives him the courage to buy such an expensive house. If he loses this job, let alone losing it, the loss of family income and the loss of mortgage payments are enough for him. When the bank comes to repossess the house, They won't even have a place to live. The adoptive father pushed away the entangled adoptive mother, crawled humbly to his brother, and begged, "Mr. Wang, I beg you, I am so old. If I lose this job, my family will be destroyed. Please give me one more time, Mr. Wang." Opportunity. Seeing my brother's expression, he was slightly moved. Being begged on his knees by a man who was so much older than me, it would be a lie to say that there was no response. I also felt a trace of pity in my heart, since what I needed to beg for was already done. Even if they get it back, they won't be forced to die. However, Liu couldn't wait to push his father to the point of no return. "Dad, why are you kneeling to him? People like Li Xian are just here to see our jokes. They are a bunch of bitches. Bitches who deserve to die." The last trace of emotion disappeared from my brother's face, replaced by indifference. The adoptive father turned back and looked at Liu with gritted teeth. Liu was obviously frightened by her father's expression. She had always been her father's treasure. If she said one thing, her father would not say another. Of course, this was based on not to harm her father's interests. The next second, I saw my adoptive father raise his hand, hit Liu hard on the face, and then yelled, "You mother and daughter are going to force me to death, right? Liu, I usually spoil you too much. You can't study well, and you have a pig brain." This scene of Rashomon was more exciting than the movie. My mother was still kind-hearted and couldn't bear to see a family break up like this. "Son, forget it. As long as they don't make things difficult for your sister in the future, this matter will be over." After saying this, my mother coughed violently. I patted my mother's back gently, and felt guilty in my heart. The bad things about my adoptive parents were enough to give me a headache, and it also made my mother drag her sick body to watch them fight. I said to my brother, "Brother, I'm hungry, let's go eat." My brother, who had been cold-faced to his adoptive father just now, suddenly smiled and said, "Okay, I have already ordered lunch. Let's go eat." I held my mother's hand and walked out of the adoptive parents' house. I looked back at the still blushing face with the three people. I sighed. If their family just stopped, this matter would be over, and their family would be able to maintain a prosperous life. But Liu was not satisfied and wanted to drag me to hell. In the evening, while sitting in my brother's villa, we talked about school. Only then did my parents find out that I scored 705 in the college entrance examination. My whole family was happy for me and asked me whether I should go to Tsinghua University or Peking University. I'm hesitating. After washing, I was about to lie down when my phone lit up, showing a friend verification message. The other party is exactly the classmate whom I have not added as a friend before. I had doubts in my heart, and I also remembered the time when he suddenly became very indifferent to me. I agreed, and a message came from the other side. "Li Xian, you must be careful about your sister." What does this sentence mean? Has Liu not stopped yet? I replied, "I don't understand what you are talking about." After a long time, a large number of messages were sent over there, which made me fully understand who Liu was. At that time, you sent me the verification information first, but after I passed, you kept scolding me. I was very angry at the time, so I directly blacklisted you. Later, the more I thought about it, the more something was wrong, so I took you out to me. After comparing the note, I found that it was not your account at all. I was a little confused, so Liu secretly added him and deliberately pretended that I was scolding him. Then how do you know it was Liu who scolded you? His next words refreshed my understanding of Liu's vicious bottom line. I was working as a part-time student at a KTV. I was wearing a mask, but she didn't recognize me. She told me everything and discussed with a group of young people to trick you into going to the KTV. And then, okay, Liu, my mom has good intentions and wants to give you a way out, but you are impatient to go to jail. Before I could reply to Ban Chao, Liu's message popped up. "Is sister here?" "Liu, you asked for this. I took a deep breath and replied, "Here, what's wrong?" It showed that the input was being input, and a long string of words was sent over in a short while. The typing speed was comparable to that of a printer. It had obviously been edited long ago. "Sister, it was all my fault in the past. My mother and I both blamed ourselves very much. I wanted to treat my sister to dinner, so I treated her as an apology. I hope my sister would put aside the past grudges and give us a chance. I will apologize to my sister and apologize in person, okay, to make up for my past mistakes. It's a lie to say that I don't hate Liu. I used to get along with her day and night, but she never gave me a trace of tenderness. She only regarded me as a companion and a nanny, and I only gave her a small lesson at that time. Naturally, I also have regrets in my heart. I'm not the Holy Mother. Even if I can escape this time, I can't guarantee what kind of trap Liu will devise for me to jump into next time without my knowing it. It's better to take advantage of this time and know her plan. Down, completely pressing her under Wuji Mountain. For an unscrupulous girl like Liu, legal punishment is naturally the best education for her. Okay, please send me the time and address. After I replied to the message, I lay down, but my mind was very clear, and a complete plan took shape in my mind. The next day, I went to the store in advance to buy a pinhole camera and hid the camera in a hidden place. I also bought a call watch to keep in touch with Ban Chao at all times and told him to stay calm and call the police if something went wrong. We broke the glass as a sign of honor, and when he heard the glass breaking, he rushed in with security guards. As scheduled, I came to the KTV that Liu mentioned. This KTV is very large and the environment inside is notoriously complicated in the area. I pushed open the door of the private room and saw Liu sitting in the middle surrounded by a group of people. There were men and women in the group, either with dyed yellow-green hair or with tattoos all over their arms, talking and laughing. Seeing that it was me who pushed the door open, Liu immediately came forward happily. Come on, my sister is here. Make room for my sister." After saying that, she pressed me hard and sat down. Liu smiled at me, but the smile was very sinister. I'm really flattered that my sister is willing to accept my apology. She picked up the wine on the table and handed it to me. Drink this glass of wine. From now on, we will still be good sisters. Okay, sisters. I took the wine glass from her hand and just held it in my hand. Seeing that I refused to drink, Liu urged, "Sister, you don't want to drink." I shook my head and said, "Of course I do, but you should drink first when toasting." Liu suddenly understood and said to me, Yes. Yes, then I'll drink this glass." But I directly stopped her hand that wanted to take another glass of wine, and handed the wine glass in my hand in front of her. "You drink this cup." Both she and I knew that this glass of wine was drugged. Liu was smiling just now, but when I handed him the wine glass, he suddenly became fierce. She grabbed my hair with her backhand and said, "Li Xian, you don't have to drink the wine as a penalty, right?" She finally showed her true face. "Liu, is this how you apologize?" I felt a little pained, but I still led Liu towards my trap little by little. Liu laughed loudly. "Apologize? Why do you want me to apologize to you? You are only worthy of being a maid who carries my shoes for the rest of your life, and you still want me to apologize. So today's game was designed to deceive you. Mine, right? What do you want to do?" Although I was grabbed by the hair by Liu and couldn't keep my balance, I still held the wine glass in my hand tightly. Liu, a simple-minded idiot, naturally said, "I just want to destroy you. Have you seen these men? I have also prepared the camera. How about shooting a perfect personal MV for you?" The crowd burst into laughter. "It's illegal for you to do this. Liu, do you know? You can't do this," I yelled. Maybe he wanted to scare me even more. Liu told all the details. "Can the law control me? You are too naive. Some of the people here have fathers who are police officers. Are you asking him to investigate his own son? And this is no longer the case. This is the first time we have done this. We only have the video in our hands. If you dare to call the police, I will post it online. It was really perfect. I didn't expect that I would get something unexpected this time. I slammed the wine glass on the ground, and the door was knocked open by a dozen burly men in an instant. The men and women in the private room didn't know what was going on and were so frightened that they huddled in the corner. Soon the police arrived at the scene and we were all taken back to take notes. My brother also rushed over after hearing the news, and I handed over last night's chat records and the videos taken by the pinhole camera. The police originally wanted to treat it as a minor dispute, but after watching the video recorded by Liu and others, they immediately detained the principal culprits for interrogation. My brother did not want to give up and hired a lawyer. As long as the victim is willing, the lawyer will serve them free of charge throughout the process. There is no doubt that Liu is doomed this time. When we finished taking notes, the adoptive parents also walked out of the interrogation room nearby. When the adoptive mother saw me, she immediately knelt down in front of me. Xin, Mom, please, your sister is still young. If she gets a criminal record, she will be ruined. Don't sue her, okay? You can ask your mother to do whatever you want. Liu's adoptive mother has contributed a lot to what she is today, blindly doting on her, causing her to have no correct outlook on life, and harming others and herself. Aunt Lee, it's not me who wants to sue her now, and it's not just me she's harming. Today I was on guard so I didn't fall into her trap, but she has already caused trouble to others, and she must bear the consequences. Seeing that I had already changed my name, I shouted, Aunt Lee, my adoptive mother knows that I won't care about any affection anymore. My adoptive mother got up and tried to pinch me, but was stopped by my brother's tall figure. My adoptive father couldn't hold me back, and the adoptive mother was also restrained to calm down. The first thing my brother did when he returned to the company was to fire his adoptive father. The adoptive father could not get a penny in compensation. Finally, I decided to leave this city, not to avoid them, but after I chose Peking University, my parents bought me a property there. I heard from Ban Chao that the names of the girls who were harmed by Liu were the family united and sued Liu, and their adoptive father offered compensation, but they were unwilling to do so. They only demanded that Liu be brought to justice. After losing his job, his adoptive father's house was soon out of stock, and the court wanted to foreclose on the house, so the adoptive mother stayed in the house and acted like a deadbeat. In the end, the court threw her and her belongings out. When I heard the news, I didn't know whether I was happy or unhappy. I was just grateful to have parents who love me so much. Wang Xian, my dear, the meal is ready. My dad, wearing an apron, shouted to me, hey, here we come.